Hey everyone, welcome back. Cosmic Kitty and I are here to show you how to make German dilly bread. This is a recipe handed down through the generations from my great grandmother who came here from Germany. And look at that historic handwriting, isn't that something? I'll put the recipe in the description box for you down below, but I had to show you guys that so you could appreciate it. I have the most wonderful memories of my grandmother making this bread. I never got to meet my great grandma, and everything about this bread is nostalgic for me. We're having a cool day for us here in South Florida. It's supposed to rain and be cloudy all day, and I happen to have sprung the day off. It's Thursday, January 26th, and I'm going in to the college today to get my teeth cleaned by my daughter Danny. So I'm just taking the day off and going to make the most of the morning. So here we go. This recipe calls for warming 1 cup of cottage cheese. It expired December 26th and I just so 4 days ago. And I want to use this up. Cottage cheese goes in the pan along with a tablespoon of butter and a couple tablespoons of the minced onion. And also I put the dill seeds in there so they soften. The recipe calls for 2 teaspoons. I always put a heaping tablespoon because that's what it's all about, right? That flavor. I'm going to put this on the burner and heat it gently to low warm. You don't want it to get overly hot because you're going to add it to your bread mixture. And of course you don't want to kill the yeast. Package of yeast. I got this from Aldi. It's fast rising. You can use any kind. All right, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of white table sugar. The usual way you make yeast, right? Some warm water, a 1/2 cup. Now I'm going to give that a good stir to dissolve the yeast and the sugar. I usually stir till the bits don't show. Here I'm showing you that I decided to make a little mini carton of eggs to keep in the front of the fridge because I always buy 18 counts and I keep them at the back, and it's such a hassle. I don't get eggs out that often, maybe once or twice a week. So that was for convenience sake. And 1 egg going in the dough. That's an egg and the yeast and water and sugar right there that I'm mixing up. Now I'm adding 2.5 cups of flour. The recipe calls for 2.5 to 3 cups, but I always start with 2.5. This is a very sticky dough. You don't want it to be too dry or the texture will be off. Now I'm adding 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Again, I don't seem to know how to use measuring teaspoons. I just eyeball everything. Probably drives some people crazy, I'm sure. And now I'm going to get the cottage cheese, onion, and seed mixture and give that a good stir. And the recipe also calls for 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And I like to add that to the cottage cheese mixture. It kind of fluffs it up a little bit. Not that that matters, it's just interesting to see how it does that. And I give it a good mix around with the soda, and then I add it to the flour and yeast mixture. I only warm the cottage cheese mix on the stove until that pat of butter melts. That's how I know it's warm enough and not too warm. So now we're going to give that a good stir. This bread recipe is one of those, it's almost like an artisan bread in that you never actually knead the bread. You just mix the dough like you would cookies. And then when it reaches the right consistency, you'll put it in a bowl and let it raise. This was on the sticky side today, so I ended up adding an additional half a cup of flour, so I did get up to the full 3 cups. There I'm showing you I have half a cup of the flour left. And now I'm putting oil in a ceramic souffle dish and rolling it around. And I'm going to let this dough raise in that bowl for about an hour. The recipe actually calls for letting it raise for an hour, then punching it down and putting it in the pan you're going to bake it in and letting it raise another 40 minutes. But I don't do a double raise with this. I've made it so many times. I've come to the conclusion it's actually better consistency, texture-wise, to just do one rise. And so I'm adding a little flour to this very sticky dough, just sort of rolling it around in my hands to shape it into a ball. And then I'll put it in that pan. And the dough is very sticky, but you can still work with it. And once you get it shaped, just put it in that pan and then roll it over so the oily side is up. And now I'm going to put some saran wrap on it and let it raise on top of the stove for an hour. This bread is, the higher it raises, the better the consistency. So my rule of thumb is to wait until it's about to touch the saran wrap. So I managed to get that saran wrap off of there without it sticking to the bread. And I'm going to let it raise just long enough to let the oven preheat to 350. Then it's going in and it has to cook about 45 to 50 minutes. And that'll take me right up to about 12:40 when I need to leave. Okay, so here's the dilly bread. I wish you guys could smell it. It smells amazing. And here's a look at the finished bread cut open. Looks like it turned out perfect. I'm gonna make a beef stew to go with this bread tonight and pull out some other stuff out of the freezer and get a meal plan together. Can't wait to eat this bread. Thanks for watching.